Be happy, be healthy, be your best. Be your best.
So you have joint pain, or you have family members that as they got older have joint pain. Guess what? The cause is not what you think. The story starts inside a single cell called a chondrocyte. Okay. The chondrocyte is a cell that builds your cartilage. And cartilage is what's so important in order to have comfort in the joints. So inside of that cell, okay, inside every chondrocyte, there's a protein folding factory called the endoplasmic reticulum. And when this factory gets stressed, it triggers the first wave of inflammation. You can see in the slide here the difference between a healthy function and an endoplasmic reticulum that's under stress. This is the origin point of where joints are going to start to have pain. But this starts way, way, way before you actually experience the pain. So this is where at the very first part of it that you would want to work with the problem before it happens. Or if you already have the problem, here's the good news. You still can do a lot of things to reverse the problem and get rid of that joint pain. So there was an unexpected discovery made about joints. Our cartilage cells have receptors for bile salts. Now, most people think of bile as being connected with the liver. So why would there be receptor sites in the joints for bile? Well, not all bile is made the same. There's primary bile for digestion, and then there's secondary bile that's anti-inflammatory. And so the secondary bile is the one that ends up being used for the joints. Your gut microbes are like a refinery. That's why your microbiome is so important. They convert the bile that your liver makes into those powerful secondary bile salts that act throughout your body. So there's a really important axis called the gut-joint axis. We know that in recent years, they've discovered a gut-brain axis, that they're very tightly tied together, but there's also a gut-joint axis. And that is that a healthy gut produces anti-inflammatory bile salts. And then these go and they protect those chondrocyte factory protein folding processes, and they reduce the stress. When they reduce the stress, it shuts down the inflammatory response. Another ally is the calcium traffic cop. This is vitamin K2 that prevents calcium from building up in your joints and soft tissues. When you don't have enough vitamin K2, the deficiency can end up where you have joint spurs, calcification, results in pain and discomfort. So where do you find it food-wise? You find it in fatty, grass-fed animal foods. Otherwise, you find it in supplementation. Now, in a case like something like rheumatoid arthritis, that's a problem with the immune system. And usually what's done with that is really high dose vitamin D3 and K2. And that's usually done under a physician's guidance because it takes 20,000 to 40,000 international units a day. And they have to work it with the K2, the magnesium, and the zinc. But it still shows that even in a situation like that, something in the joint that is that serious can be worked with without it being what we've seen in years past is just surgery or injections or things of that nature. So what are things that disrupt that axis? What causes problems like you can see here? There's foods, there's different ingredients, there's different things that just really fire up that endoplasmic reticulum inflammation and cause problems in the joint. Polysorbate 80, found in just a lot of different, basically processed foods, okay? It's a real problem for the joints. Staying on a low-fat soy protein isolate. Soy protein isolate is in a lot of different things that you buy. It's in a lot of protein drinks, a lot of things like that, but it doesn't have taurine in it. And when it doesn't have taurine, the bile production doesn't happen correctly. And so then you don't have the bile salts that end up going and helping with the joints. Refined seed oils, they're just plain poison. Heated oils create a substance that causes mitochondria damage. And seed oils are just bad for the whole body in general, but they're definitely bad for the joints. And then, everybody likes to have that glass of wine or a drink or a beer occasionally. But you got to keep in mind that alcohol, especially beer, stresses the liver, which then can create purines, which can lead to gout, and that's definitely a joint issue. So casein, that's in regular American milk and cheese. That's an A1 protein. The A2 protein ones don't cause as much problem with the joints, but the A1 definitely has an inflammatory response in the joints. The wheat in USA is very sticky, about 300% higher in gluten, and it definitely has an inflammatory response. And a lot of times it's covered with glyphosate, Roundup, different pesticides. It can cause joint problems because it damages the gut. All of these damage the gut. You damage the gut, you damage the bile salts. You damage the bile salts, they aren't produced, the joints are going to have problems. And then high fructose corn syrup. The liver doesn't like it. It causes insulin resistance, inflammation, and high fructose corn syrup is in so many things. It's something to be avoided at all costs in order to have not only joint health, but overall body health. So recruit your allies. Use the things that rebuild and protect. Fermented foods, healthy fats, sauerkraut, kefir, olive oil, avocado oil, D3K2, found in foods, salmon, grass-fed butter and cheese. You can supplement with it if you need to. Sulfur foods, onions, garlic, cruciferous, vegetables. They do building blocks for joints. And then collagen, bone broth is a great source of it. There's also supplements that you can buy that have collagen. You have to be really careful with the quality of those. If you can do it through bone broth, you're going to have the actual food access that is going to be really good. And if you do, like I said, supplementation, make sure that you have high quality. There's a specialized tool you can find online called Tutka. It's a bile salt supplement, and it directly reduces the stress in the joints and shuts down the inflammatory signaling that can be taking place in the cells. And it's one of the things that helps the gut joint access in a concentrated form. So if you heal the gut, you heal the joints. The health of your joints depends upon your microbiome. It's kind of a new frontier in the research on joints. So stop the inflammation. Stop the polysorbate 80. Stop the low-fat soy being prominent in the diet. Stop the refined seed oils. Watch out for the alcohol. Do A2 instead of A1. Careful with the gluten. Careful with the high fructose corn syrup. Use the fermented foods. Make sure you're getting some good grass-fed butter or tallow, the omegas, and then your bone broth and your sulfur veggies. So in our office, we check people to see what's going on with their joints and help them to isolate where there are problems, whether it's tired joints or inflammatory joints. But I really encourage you to think about this information and just really take good steps in the weeks to come to improve your joint health, whether you have pain now or you're trying to just make it where you don't have it in the future, or if you do have joint pain and you just want to effectively eliminate it.